Hey, Strategy Simplified. I want to invite you to join the Networking Challenge taking place March 3rd to 7th. It's a free challenge where each day we're going to send you an email with the strategy and the specific tactics that you can execute to get your foot in the door at the world's most prestigious consulting firms. Think McKinsey, BCG, Bain, Deloitte, and so much more. Register now for free at the link in this episode's show notes. Networking is a massive part of the recruiting process for strong candidates who get offers, and we hope you'll join us. Again, link is in the show notes to register for the March 3rd to 7th Networking Challenge. Welcome to Strategy Simplified. Are you a PhD, a PharmD, an MD, a JD, a postdoc, a practicing physician, or other advanced degree candidate interested in consulting? Then you're going to want to pay attention to today's episode. We brought on 4 top advanced degree employers, Bain Company, L.E.K, Guidehouse, and ClearView Healthcare Partners, to share why they love to hire advanced degree candidates, what they specifically look for, and how you can join their firm via advanced degree bridge programs. They cover everything you need to know to apply, to be successful, to interview, what these programs are like, when to apply, and so much more. Can't wait for you to get connected with these firms. Check out the links in the show notes for application deadlines and to submit your applications. Please reach out if there's anything we can do in the application process. You can check out our Black Belt Case Prep program, where we'll edit your resume and your cover letter and work with you to prepare for case and behavioral interviews. More info at managementconsultant.com or the link in this episode's show notes. Let's get into the panel.
Yes, I'm either consulting's greatest endorsement for how long I've stayed or its worst warning, right? So just so that y'all know, I decided early on in my career I would never become a banker and I would never become a consultant, and I'm now 20 years in. So I love the space, and I'm really excited today to host our first ever APD panel. We've really worked with a lot of APDs across different environments. Y'all have the least support and the most opportunity in this space. And so we're really excited to share with you some of the specific tactics, some of the firms that really want to hire you, to encourage you about kind of, why you should take the leap, how you should prepare, and more. And so I'm really excited to welcome our panelists today. I'm going to go ahead and give our panelists the opportunity to introduce themselves. So Gabe at Bain, I'll start with you.
Yeah, sure thing. Hi, everyone. Gabe Dunn. I'm an associate partner at Bain out of the SF office. I work with our tech practice, leading a lot of our semiconductor manufacturing work and more recently quantum computing. Well, what were there's a couple other intro questions, right, Jen?
Yeah, I could have framed that a little better. So introduce you, your firm, you already kind of did that. And then one reason that your firm loves hiring APD candidates, as well as if you hire internationals.
Oh, yeah. What I could talk about the sort of increasing importance of expertise in the world, problem solving and research capabilities. But I think maybe just the broader answer here is, we're looking for the sort of best and brightest always, right? And when I think back to undergrad, the folks that continued on into academia, those were not the slouches in the class, right? So this is just an awesome untapped sort of pool of really bright people that we always look to bring in.
Love it. And internationals, yes or no? What's the current status at Bain?
Yes to internationals, and we do sponsor visas.
Thanks. Matt, I'll turn it over to you with L.E.K.
Thank you, Jenny. Great to meet you all. I'm Matt, partner at L.E.K. Been part of our team for, 11 years or so now. Started as an advanced degree candidate myself a long time ago, so know the path you're on well. Excited for where you all are. L.E.K, we're a firm of about 3,000, specialize in everything from pharma to private equity. I spent all of my time in biopharmaceuticals. A little bit like Jenny's introduction, I never thought I'd be a career consultant. I thought I was coming for 2 years and then I forgot to leave, which I think speaks to how much I also liked the industry and really the people in it. And I've found that to be true across firms, by the way. So whether it's with us or someone else on this call, you'll be in good hands. We love advanced degree candidates for the same reasons Gabe kind of just suggested. But if I had to add to the list, I'd say I found that some of the later professional training, especially on the PhD side and kind of the thesis proposal and then defense process, or the equivalents in law and medicine, really kind of change how individuals think and turn them into better problem solvers. And we've had really good luck with that. We're also at a critical inflection point right now with AI, and the jury's out, but I suspect some of the folks on this call are going to be better at using some of these new tools than others, just given your technical backgrounds. And so we're really interested in that analytical capability as well. Like a lot of the others on the call, international hires are great. We do indeed hire internationally, and we'll sponsor visas as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Great to be in touch. Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah, welcome, Matt. Glad to have you here. Alex, you're up next.
Sure, yeah. Nice to meet everybody. Alex Lehrman, Managing Director with ClearView Healthcare Partners, based out in San Francisco. Similar story to some of the others. I actually started out as an oncology researcher in grad school and found my way into consulting because, I'll be honest, I like people more than mice, and it's been a great switch. Thought I would do it for a couple of years, and we're approaching a couple of decades now. But ClearView is a life sciences strategy consulting firm. So we have always, from the time of our firm's founding, hired advanced degree candidates, and they're the lifeblood of our company because we work almost exclusively in the life sciences space. So happy to be on the call. Love that you guys are out here, exploring opportunities for yourselves. We hire internationally. We sponsor visas. We know that that's a critical component of our pipeline of people that come into our firm. So excited to share more about ClearView and talk with all of you today.
Alex, would you recommend that if somebody likes mice more than people, they do not consider the consulting route?
Yes.
Does the opposite also work?
That's a key question for you to answer. Yeah. Too many late nights in the vivarium for me. Yeah.
Okay, gorgeous. Well, at least we're establishing some standards and KPIs here. I like that. Last but not least, Harrison.
Hi, everybody. And Alex, I'll say, yeah, liking people, pretty key for consulting world. Definitely agree on that. But great to meet everybody. My name is Harrison Andes. I'm here with Guidehouse today. I appreciate everyone, including me, and certainly I think this is an awesome opportunity to get to learn more from just a wonderful group of folks, and certainly students. We hope to learn from you guys too. So like I said, I'm with Guidehouse. Guidehouse is a management consulting firm. We are based out of Tyson's Corner, which is just west of Washington, D.C. in Virginia, up to about 17,000 people now. And we really work across 4 main industries, which I'll talk about as we go, which are going to be healthcare, defense and security, financial services, and then something we call communities, energy, and infrastructure. Really, really fantastic practice. But certainly a lot in common with some of the firms that are here with us today. We certainly do hire advanced degree candidates, and I'll tell more about what kind of opportunities we have and where we always see fits there. But I think when it comes to Guidehouse, because we work in a specific range of industries, certainly folks who are completing master's degrees related to those industries, always a valuable conversation there to see what added expertise and learning they're bringing. But I think the other thing that an advanced degree might bring you is that continued grind on a topic, on working in teams, on researching, on doing a lot of the work that I think really paves a path for consulting type skills, which I think we could get to as we go. So there's incredible value there when it comes to Guidehouse. And then I would say for our hiring, unfortunately, in most cases, we're not open to international candidates, just to be open on that. Part of that, of course, is our business is really split between a public sector practice as well as a commercial practice, one of the things that makes Guidehouse unique. But we do have a couple of exceptions. Mainly, I'll give an example, is our life sciences practice recruits candidates who are going to be PhD students or postdoc students in very specific niche areas of life sciences. So there might be opportunities there for sponsorship, but for the majority of our positions, often not open to it, but always happy to be transparent as we can.
Got it. Okay, so music majors not sponsoring, but others, there's a chance. I like
Might
that.
be a more challenging conversation. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, I love it. Well, thank you. Welcome to all of our panelists. We're going to dive in. We're going to pyramid principle this conversation. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what somebody should do, and then we're going to talk about all the why and all the kind of behind the scenes after that. So we're going to kick off by just talking a little bit about your bridge programs. And I'd love to kind of have each one of you share about this. Matt, I'm going to have you go first. If you can just tell us a little bit about your advanced degree bridge program, who it is for, and also maybe helpfully who it's not for. We get a lot of these questions. I need you guys to help provide some muscle for us about who you do not want to apply to these so that you don't get these kind of, out of bounds program folks trying to slip in the door, and then what they get from it. What are you providing, and also why do they apply? What are the opportunities that are behind door number A? So Matt, walk us through what it's looking like at L.E.K.
Yeah, you got it, Jenny. Thank you. So I guess for the folks on the phone, the program at L.E.K is called Link to L.E.K. And it's the entry point for our advanced degree candidates looking to come and work with us in the life sciences world. So it's really all life sciences focused. We're willing to consider a range of advanced degree backgrounds there. It doesn't necessarily mean your degree has to be in biology. I've seen chemists and chemical engineers and mechanical engineers and physicists do well. But certainly you have to have an interest to want to work in the life sciences, or it's probably not the right program for you all. We're typically looking for folks who are looking for a full-time role sometime in the following year. So sometime in 2026 would be the case here, who would be graduating somewhere in that window and ready to start and embark on the next adventure. Our program will be 3 days in April. It's April 28th to the 30th this year. It's done virtually, so you could join from anywhere. And what we'll do is we'll take these candidates, we'll actually put them on teams, we'll mix in some of our folks, and we'll work through some case examples with them. It's a good chance to develop a few skills, to get some practice, but I think most importantly, just to kind of experience a day in the life and see if you actually like the job. A lot of the folks who have done the program have gone on to get full-time offers and been some of our more successful candidates recently. I just wrapped up a project with one woman, Sydney, who joined us 2 years ago via this program, who was just earlier today telling me about all the benefits of it and how much she appreciated it. And I appreciated it too, because she's great and did an awesome job on that project for me. So it's been a win-win for us and for candidates. Great to have you all.
Does your resume pass the 7-second test? That's right, your resume has just 7 seconds to make an impression on a recruiter. So that means your resume needs to be amazing, it needs to be killer, it needs to be fully optimized. So it does what it needs to do, which is to convert your interaction, your impression into an interview. Don't leave your future up to chance. Work with a management consulted resume and cover letter editing team to edit your application docs today. Our team works tirelessly and meticulously to look at every single letter, word, number, line, bullet point, and section on your resume so that it's optimized for consulting so you can maximize your opportunities. Work with us today via the link in this episode's show notes. Fun fact, over 80% of editing clients land at least one interview with their transformed docs. We'd love to work with you. Again, check out the links in the show notes to learn more and purchase today.
Amazing. Harrison, let's have Guidehouse go next.
Sure, happy to chime in. So I'll talk about a couple of programs. One, which I think is certainly a great example here, potentially for a lot of candidates, and then one that might be a little bit more broad. So first thing is our Gateway to Guidehouse program. Might have a little bit in common there with L.E.K, definitely similar themes because it's also with life sciences candidates. So that's within our healthcare practice. And we are looking for students who are pursuing advanced degrees, and really a big range of them. Could be PhDs, PharmDs, MDs, MBAs, MHAs. I mean, there's a long list that you guys will see if you check out the job posting. And they are students who are going to be graduating anywhere between fall of 25 all the way through summer of 2026. So really an opportunity to help those candidates who are looking for that future full-time role after the completion of their degree. It's a fantastic program we introduced a couple of years ago. So we invite students who are selected out of applications to come to our Chicago office, an office I used to work out of. It's a great place to be for what's a 3-day 4-day program where they're going to have so many opportunities to really get to know our culture, get to know Guidehouse. There's certainly case simulations and day in the life exercises, and we really help, I think, put those students and potential future candidates to work exploring what it's like to be a consultant in life sciences, what it's like to be a consultant in life sciences at Guidehouse. And certainly our aim at the end of that program is for the students who participate to absolutely not just have a first round interview, but a final round interview as well for future full-time opportunities once that's over. I know in our first year, I think it was 9 students that we hired through that program, and it's normally a smaller cohort, so it's really intimate. We try to make sure it's a great experience with that group. So it's been incredibly successful for us. So I would say that's our big highlight for life sciences. So if you're someone who's graduating within that timeline, applications are open through the end of February, so definitely check that out, where we'll be selecting candidates soon afterwards. And then just to highlight more broadly, so we are recruiting for, I'm managing the campus recruiting team, so we recruit both interns and full-time hires across the organization for a number of different roles. So anything that we have on our website that's listed as Campus 2025, if you look at the requirements, you'll see what roles might be more open to graduate students. I would say about 1/3 of our internships and full-time roles are available for students really pursuing a huge range of graduate degrees, all across from MBAs to Masters in Public Policies to science backgrounds. So certainly really figuring out if that role is right for you. If you're an intern candidate, our internship is a 10-week program over the course of the summer for someone who has graduation a full year away. And we have a great history of converting our interns into future full-time hires. So we really want to showcase that opportunity at Guidehouse, really help you feel a part of our culture over the course of the summer, and bring in a great group of those candidates in the future. So that includes both undergrads and grad students, and a lot of special mentorship and connection with folks who we call people managers, and really guidance along the way for interns at all levels.
Amazing. Thanks, Harrison. Exciting opportunities. One of the things that we talk about a lot of the time are that there are more opportunities than y'all recognize. I think you just illuminated that. So thanks for sharing. Gabe, I'll have you go next for Bain.
Yeah, sure thing. Bain's is called Advantage, the AD capitalized, as someone pointed out, great marketing. Who it's for it's pretty broad, right? And so it's PhDs, postdocs, JDs, MDs, and we don't care what you're studying, right? And so from physics to Russian literature, again, we're looking for smart people. In terms of who it's not for, I mean, I would say, I suppose MBAs, and then if you've been out of academia for 3 years or more, I think you'd be coming in more as an industry hire. So that would be a bit different. The Advantage program is a little distinct, and I have a pretty big soft spot for it. I did Advantage in 2016, which was the first year it was ever offered. I think I was one of 4 people in the initial Advantage class. The way it's structured differently is it's really meant to be a mini internship, right? And so you show up, it's 1 week long, you're compensated for it. You get an email address, you're staffed to a team, and you're doing actual consulting work. So I haven't seen anything better at just getting an idea of what does a day in the job actually look like. I always dread that question whenever anyone asks it, because it's really tough to sort of sum up. I mean, that was true in grad school also, was saying what does a day of research look like? Is like, I can either make it so fuzzy that it's inspiring, but not really helpful, or I can make it so nitty gritty that it sounds real boring. And so just getting your sleeves rolled up and doing it for a week is amazing. It's a really high conversion rate. So it's a smaller class and a little bit of a tougher bridge program to get into. But I would say often about half of, if not more, of the participants end up getting full-time offers at the end of it.
Gabe, I remember an early conversation with one of the Bain recruiters at the genesis of the program, and they were like, these PhDs are so interesting. They're thrilled we're paying them. We don't have this experience with our MBAs. And she was like, they thought they would just come work for free for a week. And we thought, well, maybe we made a mistake in the way we designed the program. But it was really funny talking about the genesis of the program at the beginning.
Well, I was even less thrilled about the money and more thrilled about the name tag. I thought that was really touching, was getting a sort of, it was like my first day at the office.
There you go. Amazing. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Okay, awesome. Alex. share with us a little bit about the ClearView experience.
Sure, yeah. So our program, Connect to ClearView, has been going on, I think, since 2010. So we've been doing it for a very long time. It's one of our primary ways that we get advanced degree candidates into our pipeline. We focus a lot on science PhD students. We have separate internship opportunities for MBAs and so forth. It's an in-person program, runs over the course of 3 days. It's really, you're simulating a project, right? So you come in, you're in our offices for 3 days, you're participating in brainstorming sessions, you're doing primary research, you're doing secondary research, you're putting together a presentation that ultimately gets presented at the end of the program. We are running 4 sessions this year, 3 in Boston and 1 in London, in April and May. And it's meant to answer that question of what is it like to be a consultant for a day, right? And every day is different, and that's the beautiful thing about consulting. And we're trying to give folks an opportunity to come in, spend time in our offices, work with our managers, really feel what it's like to be a consultant at ClearView, and then give them a leg up in the recruiting process. If you perform well within the Connect to ClearView program, we want to make sure that those people stick around and join us the following year. So. That's the way I would sum it up.
Thanks, Alex. Alex, you were very politely saying this earlier, but I think it's true. I want to verify ClearView was the first and really the pioneer of these kind of programs. Am I right about that?
Yeah, it's one of the things I don't know if we say we're the first, but we've been doing it for a long time, and we know how beneficial it is for our organization and for advanced degree candidates. And I'm really glad to see that it's proliferated across the industry, because it provides a great opportunity for students that are coming out of academic backgrounds that I think historically wouldn't get pulled into consulting. And we know that the increased diversity that we have within our organization is a huge benefit. So happy to be part of the program, and I'm glad that our colleagues at other firms are doing it as well.
Awesome. I love that. Well, I'll move on to another question. Gabe, I'm going to ask you this one first. We've talked a little bit about the reasons that each of your firms are looking for this candidate pool. But I actually want to go one level deeper. And you've mentioned a couple of times you're looking for the smartest people kind of wherever they are. But the consulting industry has expanded their interest in talent. Originally, it was kind of like, right, 7 schools. If you weren't at the school, it was get in line. And you had to either really know somebody or have a very specific form of expertise. And as that's expanded, these non-traditional candidate backgrounds have kind of grown up inside there. But, not having a business or an econ background, what are the actual tactical benefits that somebody brings when they come from one of these non-traditional backgrounds? Not just smart people, but what do they bring to the table? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, first, I would say I wouldn't devalue the really smart people thing, because again, I think that's the #1 reason here, right? Is what consulting is growing a ton. The number of smart people in the world is staying probably pretty flat, if not declining. So finding access to new populations of smart people is a really huge deal, right? And so I can talk about the expertise side, right? And so we are bringing folks up. Myself, I'm a PhD in physics, and I mentioned I work mostly in semi-manufacturing and quantum computing. So yeah, my background's absolutely being pulled on. We also have really successful folks coming from art history and Russian literature, where most of their cases are not, steeped in Russian literature.
Not museum cases, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So no, I think we absolutely benefit in general from just a sort of diversity of thought here and approaches. So that doesn't just mean niche specialization. Again, you can luck out and you can have an academic area of specialty that happens to be commercially relevant. But at the same time, I think what advanced degrees bring is being what the ability to reach that level of expertise is big, right? To kind of roll up your sleeves, come into a topic, know very little about it, and in a week or so become a de facto expert on it is something most PhDs are really great at, right? And that's true for JDs and MDs as well.
Yeah, that's insightful. The ability to go really deep in a subject and not get bored or flake out part of the way through there. I love it. Matt, what about you? Anything to add from L.E.K and from your experience? What are these, it's not just like filling a pipeline, right? It's adding a special sauce to the mix of your teams. What is it that these APDs bring?
Yeah. Thank you, Jenny. I think what I find APDs bring the most, well, one is brains. I'll echo Gabe there, but two is sort of comfort being uncomfortable with problem solving. They're folks that I can hand a very amorphous problem, and they're a lot more comfortable figuring out where to take it. I think, all of the advanced degree programs have different methods of teaching people this. I referenced earlier, if you're in a PhD, it's a little bit of that thesis proposal and defense process. Often when you can actually use your content expertise, that's great, but more often it's actually that problem solving that you bring. And when you move on to the medical doctors and the lawyers, I actually find, and I should mention PharmDs and others like others advanced degrees, I find they each have their own kind of unique way of being comfortable and uncomfortable problem solving and figuring out how to crack something that's really different. And that differs a lot from what we see from the traditional business strategists and the types of opportunities and experience they bring. So I think it's really that piece there that we find most valuable in our advanced degree candidates. I'll add there's probably something on the analytical rigor side as well, where they're a little more thorough in general, but that's probably a lower hanging fruit to me, a less important piece than that comfort part. I will say, too, the world is becoming increasingly specialized. And so having relevant folks on the team who know all these different pockets has been really useful to us, too, whether it's immunology or oncology or whatnot.
Love it. Awesome. The next question is about what your firm does with these folks. Let's say, right, Gabe's mentioned you might have an art history major, and I love that. I use religious studies as the example of somebody in my incoming class at Bain as one of the top performers who was there that didn't come from a traditional background. But obviously, if somebody doesn't come in with any business knowledge, you have to skill them up somehow. So maybe Alex, I'll kind of kick you off with this one. How does ClearView skill up people in the business side so that you can apply their analytical framework to these business problems?
Yeah. So, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, right, like our whole business is life sciences focused. And so we feel like it's much easier to teach smart science-oriented people business skills rather than the other way around. So like that's, why we are so focused on advanced degree hiring. But we have a very in-depth training program, right? So people come in and they spend the first 6 weeks of time at ClearView just getting trained, running through different types of projects. We even have them run a month-long simulated project to really have that experience of what it's like to run a project in an environment where it's more acceptable to make mistakes and learn from them. And so giving people that opportunity to come in, spend a month and a half training, learning from others, making mistakes, building skills. That's really the approach that we take, right? We have a very in-depth, kind of well-organized training program at the start of your time. And then as you progress, let's say 6 months into a year, right, there are different kind of immersion programs that people come, we get everybody of a certain cohort together in New York or Boston and have them build on what they learned in that first kind of 6-week training window. So we recognize that when we're hiring smart people that have never done consulting before, we have to teach them how to do consulting. But we feel like bringing in those advanced degree candidates, they're way further along the learning curve than other folks. And so, again, it's why I'm here today and why we've been focusing on bringing in these types of candidates for a long time.
I love it. Harrison, what about you? How do y'all support people in the other skills that they don't bring in with them?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and it's something I often reflect on and think that I feel grateful that I'm at a consulting firm, mainly because, and it's a big adage in our world, but our people really are the difference, right? Our business is based on people working with clients, and I'm in recruiting, so I help bring in a number of those people along with my team. But our people are really out there, not only selling work, but of course, supporting clients, making a huge impact on really exciting things that you guys could read about in the news, some things that are sensitive where we can't speak on them, which is also really exciting to see, I think, in the consulting world at the same time. But I think in ways that we support folks with non-traditional backgrounds is there's a few different things that I think are hugely important when it comes to both working in consulting, but also working at Guidehouse. One of the things that's really important is that when we are hiring folks, we really, really prioritize a lot of on-the-job learning. So our aim, whether you are an intern, whether you're joining us as a full-time hire after school's over, is to ideally have you get started and then have you get started on a project pretty quickly. So there's a big, big emphasis on giving you, of course, the ability to be in the room, hear in conversations, put those skills to the test right away. And we know candidates are going to come in and not going to be perfect, right? We know people are going to make mistakes. They should have the freedom to do that. And part of, I think, what really supports our new hires and our interns when they're joining is we've got an incredible, I think, backbone of what we call performance enablement, which is all about helping all of our new hires and all of our employees have someone who they report to, we call a people manager, who gives them consistent real-time feedback throughout the year. Our entire culture internally is collaboration. It's built on that as a huge tenet of the work that we provide and how we all interact with each other. So, regardless of the level that you're at, regardless of if you complete a degree with 1 year of experience or 10, you're getting the chance to work with people who have open doors, who want you to understand how you're doing in the moment and not in 10 months when you wish you could have fixed that one thing you did wrong a couple months ago. You're hearing right away. And so there's so much more, I think, consistent coaching, a place to receive feedback. With that, I would also, giving out a little advice here, I would also say, when you do come into whether it is Guidehouse or another firm and you're bringing this awesome specialized experience, you're then entering a new world that's not school, right? You're entering a new world that is, supporting a particular client, working with a team, helping your peers and folks above and below, of course, across the organization. So openness to feedback and understanding that you might try something new and it might not work, or you might, experience something on a client project and then have to go in a completely different direction on your next one. I think really agility and learning and the ability to be open and grow with my specialized education is incredibly huge. And that's very important, I think, emphasized from our people managers. On top of that, I would say from an intern perspective, we offer peer buddies for our interns who are there to guide them throughout the summer from a peer level. So you can ask those casual questions and feel comfortable hearing from folks who may be converted as former interns and they're there to join you. Now, as a full-time hire, we run a variety of trainings with our L&D team. And this year, we're actually offering not just a virtual first day orientation, but we've moved our first day and second day orientations in person in the US, which is awesome. So we have a huge program to start on those first couple of days. And then that's really impacted by learning within the segment and a ton of on-the-job learning beyond that.
Stunning. Thank you. Good. Next question is just probably a shorter one, but ClearView, I'm going to have you go first for this one. This is a question that we get a lot from advanced degree candidates. They ask if they should plan to specialize or go for a generalist role. Is that even included in this conversation now? And if it is included, what would you recommend?
Yeah, so I think ClearView may be a little different than some of the other firms. Like, we are a life sciences strategy consulting firm, so everybody that joins us is kind of focused on life sciences as the first step. But I would say, I think when you join a consulting firm, you want to go as broad as possible. You want to work on as many different types of projects because those are giving you the building blocks to learn and solve future problems, right? You'd be able to draw on those experiences. So I think breadth is critical. And at ClearView, that means working across new product planning and pricing and market access and commercial strategy and launch and data and analytics. And so when people join ClearView, they have the opportunity to work across all of our different pillars and centers of excellence and books of business. We encourage people to do that, and we don't look for any sort of specialization until a couple of years down the road, where people can have had all of those experiences and can say, I really like this. I want to spend more of my time doing these types of projects, and we help them do that when it happens.
Hey, Strategy Simplified. My name is Katie. I am a Black Belt alum, and I spent 3 years at BCG in the Middle East. I am now here as part of Management Consultants team to help you figure out what products we offer will help you on your consulting journey. And I also advise Black Belt members and Super Prep members once they become a part of our community so that they get the most out of what we offer. If you would like to book a 15-minute call with me, you can click the link in the show notes. and I look forward to meeting you.
Love it. Bain, what about y'all? When do you ask people to specialize?
Yeah, so Bain is very big on the first couple years being very generalist, right? And so you'll come in and the consulting track is going to be about learning this toolkit, right? Learning how to be a consultant, and that doesn't need to be in your area of expertise. I would say as you get probably about 3 or 4 years in, as you become a sort of senior manager on cases, is where you start to be pushed more towards a sort of finding your niche, finding your area of specialization. Right? And I think see a huge amount of value to those first few years where, again, you're learning the job. You're not honing your expertise, which, frankly, you have plenty of. Instead, it's about learning how to be a consultant.
Abe, do you have an experience that was not in semiconductors that was in your first couple of years that you can draw on here?
Yeah, that's right. So I did focus a lot in tech, but then did forays in the first few years. I did a case for a wine and spirits company for a while. I did some biotech as well. It was a treatment for Huntington's disease. What else? I did some non-hardware tech, right? So that's usually my area, but software as a service side as well. So definitely I hopped around. Wine and spirits, I feel like, was my biggest departure from my safe space of semiconductors. And then come my sort of senior manager year, I started to focus more exclusively on tech hardware.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Good. And then this question is the last one of our moderated questions, but I really like it. Tell us one misconception that advanced degree candidates have about the application. So for example, do you prefer resumes with business experience? Do you want academic resumes? Do you not want academic resumes? Right? Like harp on some of the problem applications that you get. Let's try to drive those down through this answer and through this call. So Guidehouse, I'll let you go first for this one.
Sure. I would say we can touch on the application and then definitely resumes. I love this area because if I was applying to things, this is something I'd want to know. So I would say when it comes to the application and really the interview process, application for a lot of roles at Guidehouse is the same. So we really follow a similar template, which you guys will all see when you apply. The interview process, though, may vary based on the role and the segment that you're applying for. So for any of you that are more health focused and you might be looking at payer provider or public health or life sciences in our space, there's really case studies in each of those interviews. So you're going to see a combination of both a health specific case as well as behavioral interviews. I would flip that with, if you were to say interview with our defense and security practice, their focus is much more on behavioral interviewing rather than case. So you may see, dependent on that segment, there is a case or there is not. So the recruiter who might be guiding you through that process can certainly tell you more about that if you were to be selected and then advance. So certainly one misconception, because I think a lot of master's students are often really worried, oh my goodness, is there a case that I do have to worry about?
So go to defense if you don't want to do a case. That's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, exactly. Mention that in your interview. Say, look, I'm here because there's no case. But when it comes to the resume piece, in our minds, particularly from a recruiting perspective, we know students apply to a lot of roles. We as recruiters also see so many candidates. So concise, in my mind, is often better. I do know that when you've got years of research and years of academic expertise to the table, it's hard to trim that down. But for us on our end, typically I would say a 1 to 2 page resume is best. Always the goal is highlight what is most relevant to the job. So try to tailor your application as much as you can to what you're seeing in that role. Certainly through any learning you do about the organization, that's helpful, but shorter is better, and just thinking what's most relevant, because when you step into that behavioral interview, anything on that resume, anything in that experience is fair game. So really be prepared to speak to it and think about how that might translate into consulting.
Yeah, I would say 90% of the time my feedback on resumes to folks is fewer words.
100%.
Love it. Matt, L.E.K, anything else that you want to add?
Yeah, Jenny, I would add, I think, and there's a question in the chat too about resumes from Nada, so I'll kind of group that in here, what to highlight in terms of expertise or collaborative projects, etc. I think I agree with the kind of general sentiment of it just aired. Less is more. I think 1 or 2 pages is the right length. If you can't get it on that, you probably aren't sharpening the pencil enough. And it's good practice for the job, so definitely do that. But misconceptions, I'd say the thing we want to see the most is just what you're most passionate about and what you dedicated the most time to. We want exceptional people in whatever that area they're exceptional in. So that means highlight your research or your collaborative experience or whatever you're doing outside of business. Yes, probably get some business experience on there as well. But if you just spent 5 years creating some xenograph model to do X, Y, Z, tell us about it. If nobody's ever done that before, we want to hear it. So I'd put some focus on whatever your biggest achievements are. Keep it short, but focus there. Get a little bit of business in there, and that's probably the right mix.
Let me ask one final question on this before I roll to the other ones. Who's the audience? Is it a business audience that doesn't know expertise, or is it an expert audience? And I have a perspective on this, but I would like to hear it from y'all.
Yeah. More often than not on our end, it is an expert audience reviewing the resumes. I would write them such that if it was somebody who's not in your field of expertise, they can still read said resume. I wouldn't have it down to the level where you need to be a researcher in field X. But you could probably assume it's somebody who works broadly in the life sciences field in our case, or I assume in other cases, a very close field of work.
Yeah,
Anybody else have a different yeah, go ahead, Gabe.
Yeah, I'd say Bain, it's one and then the other, right? And so I think your first sort of screen is with a more business-minded, it's not advanced degrees. And then there's a filter through, and the sort of second round will go through advanced degrees. And exactly like Matt said, I mentioned before, we have a Russian literature PhD. Is like, yeah, that's part of who's going to be looking at it too, right? And so it needs to be accessible to any advanced degree.
Awesome. Let's roll. I've got a couple of other great questions that our audience submitted, and I want to make sure that we give them a little bit of space here. Let's talk about networking. Do you expect advanced degree candidates to network prior to applying? This is open season, so y'all can just jump in if you've got something to say.
Sure. I remember networking being a big topic of conversation when I was finishing up my PhD. And it always felt sleazy to me. It felt like games of golf and finger guns. And so I would maybe like get the word networking out of your head and would say, no, we're not expecting anyone to network, and that's not the push here. But absolutely, I would encourage all of you guys to solicit advice from folks, right? And so if there's someone who you have a connection to who already has this job and went through the process, reach out to them and ask them, what helps. If there's stuff you're struggling with, bounce things off them, get their thoughts. I think that's always been the big thing for me of when I talk to advanced degrees. I love giving advice. And often people will sort of come in with a 15-minute coffee chat of, hey, let's network and get to know each other. And I'm kind of hungry for, no, look, I want to help you. Tell me what you're struggling with, and I can help you with your resume. I can help you with this. Just, give me something that I can actually give advice on.
Great advice. What about the rest of y'all? Network or no? How so, if so?
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely, right? Like, but I think, yeah, it's not a bad word. It's just an opportunity to learn, right? And it's opportunity for the people that you're talking to learn, and the opportunity for you to learn. Not a requirement. I don't think you have to do X amount of coffee chats or, spend X amount of time networking to be successful. But, people want to know that you're interested in what it is that the firm does, and you're actively trying to learn more. And, there are lots of different types of consultancies, and even in my world of life science and consulting, like there are lots of firms that do sort of different things, and unless you go and talk to the people, it's hard to understand specifically what the job will be. And so it's hugely to your benefit to reach out and connect with others in the spaces that you're interested in.
The question has a little bit of similarity with the resume length question to me, in the sense that if you don't want to sharpen your pencil enough to get it down to a 1 or 2 page resume, maybe you're not really going to have a great time in the job where we write really concisely. If you're not going to enjoy networking, maybe it's going to be a tough kind of people-oriented job for you. So very much echo my colleagues there. I don't think there's any expectation on networking, but I'd certainly get comfortable doing it. It's only going to benefit you.
Yeah, and I'll echo a couple of points. I think, one of the things, there's a lot of conversation in the media these days about being authentic, right? I think that's been something that a lot of people reflect on and think about, because is recruiting and in this case networking, how authentic can that be? Can I really be myself in these conversations? Because my goal might be find a job, but the person on the other side of that table may or may not have the ability to help you with that. But what can they help you do, as especially Gabe and Alex hit on, is they can help you learn, and you're going to get something from those conversations. So I think certainly seeking out advice, seeking out guidance is incredibly valuable. If it helps net you more conversations that give you more information, I think you're only going to, kind of to Matt's point too, you're going to continue vetting out, do I really like this line of work? Is this something I could see myself doing? Can I put myself in their shoes and go, yeah, this is where I want to be? So of course it can lead to great opportunities and really greatly timed conversations. But the biggest thing it's going to give you is experience and knowledge that you can then kind of decide what to do with.
Well, most of you mentioned advice in some form, so I'm going to ask for some from you now. One of our audience submitted questions I love, it was, what is the biggest change we need to make from how we think in academia when we move into consulting? What do we have to leave at the door?
I mean, I guess I would say nothing, right? Like I want candidates that are their authentic selves, right? Like you're not leaving anything behind. You're just building on like all the great things that you've done thus far.
I think the evolution as you kind of move in will be getting comfortable going 80% of the depth to the answer versus perhaps running a 100 mouse trial to learn something new. It's getting a little bit more comfortable, again, with discomfort and with getting to an answer quicker. I don't know that I would leave the rigor at the door necessarily, but I would certainly get comfortable with a different level of it as you move into quicker projects, quicker timelines, etc.
Yeah, I would say what I think one of the things I see from advanced degrees is narrowing in on details and not seeing the sort of forest for the trees. And I think part of that is academia has sort of trained you for the exception and trained you for the, valuing the complexity, right? And so often for candidates during interviews, I'll even see folks sort of point out this really narrow exception, but miss the really big thing over here, right? You would be talking about how can we increase revenues? And they'll go really in depth on, oh, there's this niche area of research that could explode in a decade. And one of the answers was never, you could also raise prices. Did you think about raising prices? And I was like, yeah, but that was obvious. And the answer is like, yeah, it's obvious, but it's necessary for a complete answer, right? And so completeness is huge here, right? Because 90% of the time, it's the easy answers that you really need.
And I think, to add to that too, because I love that point. I mean, it brings me back to school. So I did my bachelor's in history where I wrote 2 theses. I don't know why I chose 2, but back in school, double the trouble on that. But and I did a master's in learning and organization
We've got some
change.
advice for you on that, Harrison.
I know.
Yeah.
A lot of writing. So I learned how to tell a story in a lot of words. And I think in the corporate world and in consulting world, to Gabe's point too, telling your story in fewer words and also figuring out how you're solving a problem. I agree that I think in the research environment, you're really studying so much in detail. But in the consulting space, I'm seeing so many of my peers understand what is the unsaid thing that the client might need help with? What are the other opportunities you might find while supporting an engagement? Or if you notice the team going down one direction that might not be valuable, again, widen your scope and think about, are there challenges? Are there anything I need to kind of raise a flag about that we should be aware of? So it definitely is expanding that scope, seeing just beyond that kind of area of niche so that you can really support both your team and the client.
I love it. Last question before we have our closing kind of round robin. There are, of course, probably some listeners here today who are at a different stage in their career rather than 1 year out from one of these kind of job opportunities. So if they're either much earlier in their kind of academic career, what would you recommend that they do? And if they're later, if they've left academia or if they've done something different, how do they approach the possibilities with a firm like yours?
Yeah, I can take that first, Jenny. I think on the earlier candidates, I'd say the closer you get to kind of that readiness timeline we were talking about, like a year out from applying, the better fit you're going to be for a program like this. In the time being, I'd be getting comfortable with a few things. If I was still 3 years out, one, doing exceptional research and finishing up my PhD well, or whatever the equivalent is in your advanced degree. And two, getting some exposure to case competitions, consulting clubs, the tech transfer office, venture capital, startups on campus, or any other business experience you could get to really see if you like the transition out of academia. And then on the more advanced candidates, I'd say just like the industry has been hiring advanced degree candidates and a broader pool of candidates for a long time, I'm also finding experienced hires are getting recruited more and more by certainly our firm, and I suspect most of the others on the line. So I keep your eyes out for other opportunities with all of us. I can't really think of, looking at the logos, anyone on this call who I haven't seen hire advanced degree candidates later in their career for other roles, etc. It may not be a fit on the Link program, the Connect program, etc. But it will be, there are fits in other avenues. So I definitely wouldn't close the door. I just might look at different ones.
Yeah, I would say if you're, a few years early, good for you, getting an early start. And absolutely what Matt said about getting experience outside of academia is huge. And at least at Berkeley, there were tons of opportunities that I had no idea even existed until I was really looking for them. And I think that was sort of early in the days of academics going outside of academia. I think that's way more mainstream now. And so I'm guessing at most of your campuses, there's even more opportunities. And it doesn't need to be consulting specific. That can be great. But to Matt's point, VCs, tech transfer, that kind of stuff. Things you can do with the MBA program at your school as well. They love partnering with scientists, JDs, MDs. Get those under your belt. It makes your resume really stand out.
Love it. Well, thanks everyone for your really rich insights today. I want to give everyone a final opportunity to say what you haven't shared, your secret sauce, a key piece of advice, and just kind of fill any gaps from what we've talked about today. So Alex, I'll let you kick off and then everybody can kind of follow off after that.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're here today, like listening to this presentation, you probably have the right intent, but I would say pursue it, right? Apply to the programs, schedule those coffee chats, do the networking, learn as much as you can about what it's like to be a consultant so that you feel equipped when you go into the interview process, and that you're ready to go, do your practice, your case practice. I think it's the more prepared you can be, the more successful you're going to be. And you probably already know that from your advanced degree work, but I always find it's helpful to reemphasize the importance of preparedness as you go into this process.
Closing thoughts from me, guys. I would add for the group, you're at a really exciting point in your career right now. You were all way ahead of where I was when I was at your stage. I had no idea what consulting was or what I was getting myself into. Keep exploring, keep looking at all the opportunities. There's only so many moments in life like this where you have an opportunity to pick from a lot of different paths. If you're on this call, my guess is you're looking at a lot of good ones. But take the time now to make an informed choice and do it right. I love where I ended up. I think consulting was a great path. I think the other logos on this call are great firms, and I would have been happy at those sort of places too. But make sure it's the right fit for you if it really is consulting, or if not, that you get it right now. It's a great time to kind of steer correctly.
And I'll add on top of that, Matt, I think one of the things to really echo and kind of drive forward here is, along with just how cool an opportunity this is. It's a stressful one, but at the same time, it is hopefully one that will really lead you in a great direction, is openness to what your future could be, openness to what your next project is. So in the consulting world, it's quite possible that when you interview with us or with any of these other companies, our teams might even have a project in mind for you. We might be thinking, my goodness, they've got the best skill set. I can't wait to put them on this one project when they start after graduation. And what if that project changes? What if it moves 6 months? What if there's a guideline that changes and all of a sudden we're planning for your onboarding and we want to give you great experience? So in that case, we're going to try to think, what other projects can they work on? Where can we use their skill sets? How can they still have impact? our company is going to be thinking that way. So if you come to your organization wherever you land with that same mindset, I can't wait to have an impact. Okay, this changed. Now I need to learn a little bit. Your flexibility with that and your openness to new opportunity will only help you in the future, advancing your career. You'll really, I think, be seen among others as a team player. The more that you are open to new situations, we've alluded to being uncomfortable before. It just naturally happens in any environment, but certainly the variability of consulting can put it there. So the more you're open and really bring your initiative to the table, bring all that knowledge you have, and you're open to the room around you, you'll really excel wherever you guys end up.
Good. Ines, was this closing thoughts? Was that the prompt?
Yeah, that's right.
Good. I was hoping I would get it from context by letting other people answer first. Good. I think the last thing I would sort of shout from the mountaintops for advanced degrees is to view your degree as an asset and not a liability. I think there's a lot of conversation about non-traditional backgrounds and how do you prepare for this, and it can make you feel like, oh man, am I starting from behind here? I think the most compelling example I have of this was I had an intern working with me who was an MD MBA. And midway through the program, she said, oh my gosh, I just feel like I'm so behind because like everyone else has this MBA and all I've got is this silly MD. And I was pulling out my hair like, that's impressive. That's really impressive. That's so amazing. Like that's the impressive thing, not the MBA. The MD is so exceptional. And so again, don't get lost in the sort of, oh, I don't have a business background. And remember, no, you guys are some of the best and brightest in the world. Your degree is absolutely an asset, and we'd be lucky to have any of you.
Thank you all so much for joining. This was such an encouragement to me because for years we've been saying you need shorter resumes with more focus. Business experience isn't required, but it helps them prove that you would like to do this. This is a huge career leap when you're moving from academia into this advisory role. So I feel like y'all both kind of highlighted some of the most common questions that we get, as well as really added a ton of depth. So thank you to all of our panelists for joining today. Thank you for your engagement in the chat. Thank you to everyone who came. What a great group and great audience. Thank you for all the questions that you submitted in advance. We are here to support you. Katie has her link in the chat. She went into BCG in the Middle East. It wasn't kind of the direct line. It was a very interesting pathway for her alone. And we're really excited to encourage you to figure out if this is a fit for you. So congratulations for showing up. You're putting in the work, and we're looking forward to helping you take it all the way. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you for moderating, Jenny. Thanks all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for joining. No matter where you're listening or watching, we'd love to get either a rating and review if you're on the podcast or if you're on YouTube or somewhere else. Make sure you're following and subscribe to us so you get all our new content. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Link in the show notes to get all the resources mentioned from today's episode, and we'll catch you on another episode soon.